YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Gonna bring you a battle between Woof Wowazg and what, China? Yeah, I don't know exactly what he's going for there, but I'm guessing something close to that. So this is gonna be a Dawei versus Pointy ear grudge match. Pretty large dwarf army here on the part of Wowazg. Let's take a look at all of it. And a lot of gyrocopters up as well. All sporting the brimstone gun. Dwarf warriors with great weapons, making up pretty much the entire front line. Wow, so many of them. There's some miners as well. Rangers with great weapons and a thunder in the back. And then it looks like we have a Thane, two of them actually, and a Rune Lord. And then for the Wood Elves, I can see some Wild Riders with shields, and then the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. And then the front line, we do have the Winterheart Guards, and some regular Eternal Guards across the front line. Quite a lot of Eternal Guards. And then there's the Wardens of Cithral, which is the Wildwood Ranger. And then there are some mix of Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts and Hagbang Tips. Starfire Shafts is an odd choice, kind of, against the Dwarves because they deal magical damage. And the Dwarves have some resistance to magical damage. There is a Glady on an Eagle, sitting in a rather dainty position there, all things considered, for battle. So we'll see how this plays out. There is a Branch Wraith in the back that has probably Earthblood, be my guess. Branch Wraith. Yeah, Earthblood. So the 4 gyrocopters would be a pretty big threat to the Glady if they decide to push their luck. And they could also be pretty helpful at wearing down Wild Riders as well. Here comes an Arrows of Kurnos. Gets kind of stopped, but oof. Takes out one of the lobbers there. It's unfortunate for the Dwarves. Wild Riders are kind of staying hidden right there on their flank. The Grudge Thrower's in range, and it's going to open fire on some of the missile units, which it should. I'm guessing the Glady intends to try and skirmish out the Grudge Thrower, maybe? Yeah, with the Brimstone guns pushing up now, this Dwarven Air Force is not exactly what the Glady wants to be involved with, but at the same time, the Dwarven Air Force is going to have to keep a very respectful distance from the Elven front lines because of all the bows there. Ooh, look at this. Look at this play right here. Some very sneaky Wild Riders going to get to the Grudge Thrower. This is exactly what the Elves want, because they want to not be forced to attack. They want to be able to sit back and use their range units. It did not actually finish the Grudge Thrower, and it's going to cost the Elves pretty dearly. So it's questionable as to whether that was worth exposing that unit, but at the same time, the Elf player is really not wanting to come and attack the Dwarves. They want to sit back. But the Elves do not have artillery, and their longest range unit is going to be a oh crap, I don't know why I can't think of their name right now. It's not the Deepwood Scout, it's the Way Watchers. Interesting. Wonder why they would use an Earthblood here. That's kind of odd. They've already lost some unit models, so Earthblood is going to do almost nothing for the Elves here. It's just going to be a waste of magic. The skirmishing from the Glady here actually causing quite a lot of damage to these gyrocopters. And a very determined Elven Wild Rider unit here, going to make another run at the Grudge Thrower. Is it worth the trade, though? And I just don't think so. Wild Riders with shields costing 1,100. Not even getting rid of a Grudge Thrower. Taking immense damage in the process. So the Grudge Thrower still has a couple of units here. It might still be able to throw its rocks. Look at the dwarves here just kind of slowly marching forward. Now these guys don't have shields, which actually may put the Dawei in a bit of hurt. Wow, that is one heck of a line of dwarf warriors. Check that out. So there's all your dwarf warriors marching into combat. An iron wall. Iron and bearded wall. So the skirmishing is beginning. The Hagbane tips and Starfire Shaft's going to open up. And against just standard Dwarf Warriors, I do think there will be a considerable amount of damage. Interesting that great weapons were chosen. There's not a lot of armor for the Wood Elves. And the standard Dwarf Warriors have shields, or Longbeards have shields. Maybe they expected a Treekin or something? Or Wildwood Rangers? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they'd be slightly better against Wildwood Rangers, but I don't know. Wildwood Rangers don't have a lot of armor. I think this Wild Rider is going to go on another run towards the Grudge Thrower, but at this point, you know, it probably doesn't matter. These Wild Riders are going to try and make for these tempting targets here, but if the Dwarves play this right, there's going to be immense damage. Yeah, look at the gyrocopters being used to make the stop. Still not enough to stop, and the skirmishers need to split up. Focused fire from the archers takes down an entire Dwarf Warrior. The Wild Riders getting into the middle of this fight rather quickly, but they could get overwhelmed. May not end up being worth it for them. The Elvish line here is about to be tested, as the Dwarf infantry is probably superior. And the Wild Riders attempting to flee here, having caused minimal damage to the Dwarf skirmishers. Oof, that Arrows of Kurnos, another direct hit. I would think trying to use the Eagle here for the fear might be worth it. Dwarf Warriors can succumb to fear and terror. This one's going to go down the lines and see whether or not the Elves are paying attention as they get into hand-to-hand combat here. Those Hagbane tips look freaking awesome as they're shooting them right there. The Elves have such cool archer units. And then here's the mainline engagements. The Pointy Ears taking on the Dawi. See exactly how that turns out. There's some Earth Blood being used here. Might as well. It'll help give the Elves, and actually the Eternal Guard are holding out very nicely against the Dwarf Warriors. I forget that they do have armor piercing. They've got 43 melee defense, whereas the Dwarves only have 28. And the melee attack is actually higher. So the Dwarf army is actually outmatched by Eternal Guard. That's where I was thinking that the shielded version of the Dwarf Warriors would have been more handy, in the sense that they would have been more protected from missiles, and they would have had more melee defense in prolonged combat. Yeah, and the archers here are going to be a problem. The Dwarves do have skirmishers, but the Elf skirmishers could potentially take them out, and the infantry fight not going well here. Here's another Earthblood. So the Elves are managing to outlast the Dawi for now. There's quite a few more Dawi units, and the gyrocopters can't even move. They're just absolutely bogged down. This can happen when you come under too much fire. You'll get to where you can't even move. Let's see, so the Thunderers and the Rangers with great weapons. You're gonna have to watch it. Yeah, they're gonna come under heavy fire. They need to stay outside of range. Look how quickly these guys get wrapped up by the concentrated fire of the Glade Guard. Yeah, the Dwarves are in pretty bad shape at this point. Pretty bad shape indeed. Let's fast forward for a second. Just look at how quickly those Glade Guard wrecking through the Dwarf Warriors. It's like the Dawi are trying to fall back here, but I don't know what they can do. And the Elf player is just falling back onto the hill as well, saying you can't force me to attack. Let's see what happens here. These Wild Riders came back from routing. The Dwarven leadership is going to come forward and try and absorb some fire. Now, granted, the Elves, there's a lot of them, but these Dwarf leadership are going to be somewhat difficult to pull down, and they're doing a good job actually absorbing some of the missile fire here from the Glade Guard. They're a lot less susceptible to it than their infantry. They definitely have to protect their skirmishers here, though. The skirmishers are going to be critical if the Dwarves hope to win. And the Wild Riders are just on a straight path, straight to the skirmishers. And they are going to cause some damage. Wild Riders are pretty good at this type of harassment. Comes the gyrocopters charging in. The Thunderers are still alive, as are the Rangers with great weapons. And it looks like the wild hunters of Kurnos are going to go down. The dwarf leadership is full on engaged over here and actually doing quite well. I wonder how these guys got tired so quickly. The leadership on the dwarves is pretty bad right now, though, and that's pretty strange. The Rune Lord and the Thanes, well, it's probably just because they're so outnumbered here. But, oh, look at this. Look at this. If he gets a bomb in here, he could turn the entire battle around. Please tell me he's going to bomb this. The gyrocopters. Oh. Just devastating. Are they going to line up for another one? Yep, there comes another bombing run. That might have single-handedly saved the entire dwarf army. The Wood Elf player got cocky there and blobbed up all over the dwarf leadership and paid a massive price, and that just resettled the balance bar. What a clutch move from the Dwarf Air Force there, and a massive mistake on the part of the Wood Elves, who I think were getting cocky about that they were definitely going to win here. That completely turned it around. There's not a lot of ammo left for the Glade Guard. Now, don't get me wrong, these Glade Guard have done considerable damage throughout this. Considerable damage, and the Glady's just sitting back doing all of her skirmishing as well. The Dwarf leadership is going to do a good job of at least taking some time and soaking up some damage here. If they can keep their skirmishers alive, though, the Glade Guard are running down to their last few volleys, and the Dwarves could potentially turn around and win this with their skirmishers, which to this point have been pretty feckless, but not so much now. Ooh, that Glade Guard, though, even though they only have a few volleys left, the damage done. But there's really not a lot of answer. Once these guys run out of ammo, which that one's out of ammo, and we've only got one volley left on each of these Glade Guard, they did do a ton of damage, but it's not going to be enough to kill them. The last volley coming in towards the gyrocopters. But that means these Rangers with great weapons are free to just completely unload all their ammo here. And the blob, once again, is going to work against the elves. The Glady is probably going to come try and take care of these dragons. If there's any gyrocopters left, they need to get up here and fend off the Glady. Now the dwarf leadership is going to get the support of infantry, and that could change this fight. This definitely looked like it was going to go in favor of the Wood Elves, and that gyrocopter bombing run just completely turned the battle around in terms of giving the dwarves a chance that they just didn't have. The Glady's getting skirmished out a little bit. She needs to flee back. There's a few wild riders that just came back. The Elven infantry getting worn down a little bit. And let's see, the Glady's going to come into combat with the gyrocopters. They just need to take turns shooting her. Right now they're trying to get rid of the wild hunters, which they did. So let's see what happens here. Definitely a good chance for the dwarves to win, I think, at this point, depending on if they can bring the Glady down. Let's just see what happens here. The Glady brought down a gyrocopter right there, but she's taking some pretty serious damage. She's used the Potion of Foolhardiness, which is kind of odd. The dwarves are taking a pretty big beating in this fight, but I mean, the Thanes have racked up a lot of kills. The Rune Lord is taking extensive damage, but he's also holding together the leadership of the dwarves at this point, and the elves are having to flee back with the Glady, which is allowing the dwarf skirmishers to pretty much just rove at will. Gyrocopters with brimstone guns doing their thing here. Let's see what happens. So the elves have a little bit of a breakthrough here. They've got some Glade Guard and other units rushing through the breach. Ooh, the Rune Lord is in such bad shape, and then one of the Thanes is actually wavering here due to damage sustained. So they're about, yeah, there's going to be another heal here. Dwarf skirmishers fleeing away from the Glade Guard. They do have decent melee stats. They're not going to be good against armor, though. This lets the Glady slip on back into combat here with the skirmishers temporarily distracted. I think the Rangers have pretty good melee stats. They do. So the Glady's going to sneak in and get a charge here on one of the gyrocopters. They need to turn on her quickly. The Branch Wraith is in rough shape. Both Thanes managed to survive. It's the Rune Lord who routed. So it's a very, very close fight still here. Yeah, the Glady's going to dive down in here, and the gyrocopters, and let's see whether or not the Rangers with great weapons can get in here and do anything about this. Look at that eagle just going to town there. Yeah, the Rangers with great weapons need to get back and start throwing some axes. They're a little too blobbed up to be effective here, I think, is what's causing their problem. They haven't gotten a good volley out. The Glady just used a potion as well. Was able to do a considerable amount of healing. The Branch Wraith came back. It's going to be a very tight fight. If these Thanes can hold out, though, look at that, 93 kills, 72 kills. The dwarf or the elf infantry was just not well suited to fight the Thanes, apparently. And the Glady's starting to take a little bit of damage again. Oh yeah, it's happening now. The dwarves are on the move now, giving chase to the Glady. Now maybe they're going to come shoot the Branch Wraith, give him a charge maybe. Now they're pulling back from the Glady, going to do a little bit of skirmishing, try and get the protection of their own skirmishers. The Thanes finally gave way to the Elven infantry ball. It is still actually says that this is in favor of the Wood Elves and becoming increasingly so. The Glady could actually chase out the Thanes at this point. Let's see whether or not the skirmishers are going to be used properly on this ball of approaching Wood Elves. They could do a lot of damage here. They need to split up, though, and steer in different directions. Looks like the gyrocopters are going to try and buy them a moment. And that is a nice charge from the gyrocopter. So yeah, the gyrocopters are going to buy some time. The Thanes came back from routing. The Rune Lord might come back from routing. This infantry ball is extremely weak. Very few Wood Elf infantry left, and this is a tight, tight fight to the finish here. Looks like the Blade Guard almost caught up to some of the Rangers, but then the Rangers turn around, smoke them with a bunch of throwing axes. There is a single Winterheart Guard here. He's about to take the firing squad, maybe? No? Some infantry are going to come back and try and finish him. Nope. They just went right past him. Look at that, the gyrocopter cycle charging. And then this Branch Wraith trying to come back and fight the Thanes. What a desperate fight for both sides. It still says it's in favor of the Wood Elves. I'm not exactly sure how that is, because all their infantry just bought the farm there. And there's still ammo left on the dwarf skirmishers, and not a lot of way for them to be caught. Ooh, the Glady just took a nasty volley from the Rangers with great weapons. I can't believe this single Winterheart Guard just standing here. They're unbreakable, apparently. Look at the Rune Lord here. The gyrocopters both crashing. The Rune Lord facing off against the Glady. The Rune Lord dies. The Glady is about to be brought down. So there she goes, with that single Winterheart Guardsman being the last unit on the battlefield. Look at the Ranger skirmishing away from him too. I wonder when the Rangers are going to just turn around and try and beat this guy down. He's only got 51 hit points. He's about to rout the entire unit. I'm not even sure if the dwarf player realizes that Winterheart Guard is the last one. The Glady hasn't shattered, but she's not likely to come back. Look at this. This Winterheart Guardsman is going to like end up routing the entire unit, a single elf. Let's see how long it takes the dwarf player to recognize that. He's trying to get the... Okay, there it is. It's a draw? Really? A draw? Whatever. That was a dwarf victory. I guess it was a draw. If he would have just recognized that single Winterheart Guard had to be killed, he actually would have won the battle. So we're going to call that a dwarf victory. What a fight. That was a long fight, which you don't see very often in Total War Warhammer. So for those saying the fights are too fast, there you go. Appreciate Woof Wowaz sending that in. Appreciate MSI sponsoring the channel, and I love making these videos for you all every day. I do hope that you enjoy them. It is a great privilege. I will see you again on another Warhammer Online battle soon.